Hi scientists, Mr. Peluso here. Now this lesson is going to focus on DNA structure. So it's a continuation from the previous video lesson which was the introduction into DNA. So the outcomes for this lesson, we're going to look at the building blocks of DNA which are called nucleotides and see how they're structured as well. We're going to break down nucleotides too and have a look at what they're made of. So that's a phosphate group, a deoxyribose sugar, and a nitrogenous base. We're going to explain the shape of DNA as a double helix, which is a twisted ladder, which we explored last time, but we'll just have a look at a few more representations of that. But we're going to break it down even more. So we're going to look at the fact that there's a sugar phosphate backbone and nitrogenous bases as the rungs of the twisted ladder. We're going to look at the four bases of DNA, which are called adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, and the letters that they represent, and we're going to look at complementary base pairing as well. So there's a fair bit to get into. First off, we're going to look at nucleotides. So these are the building blocks of DNA. So DNA is your long thread-like molecule which contains the genetic code of every living thing. Now that DNA molecule needs to be made of something because it's so long and there's so many different features it can have. So this is the basic building block. So we've got three units here, okay? Now I've color-coded them like this and we'll see different representations later on. So we have a phosphate group, we have a nitrogenous base, and we have a deoxyribose sugar. So those three separate parts make up the overall repeating unit, which is called a nucleotide. So a nucleotide contains one phosphate group, one deoxyribose sugar, and one nitrogenous base. They fit together like so, and you can kind of see the ladder formation that we've got here. So this would be a very small section of a DNA molecule made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nucleotides. So you can see the nucleotides kind of go opposite to each other. So the bases, the red parts, are connected up, okay? We can really see from this representation that DNA does look like a ladder, okay? We've got the sides of the ladder, which contain phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar on two sides. So that's why it's known as a sugar-phosphate backbone. And then we have the nitrogenous bases, which pair up and they make up the rungs of the ladder. Here's a bit of a clearer representation, despite the fact that my head's covering a tiny bit of it. So we've got here the two different types of molecules. You'll see that the phosphate group is a little bit smaller, the sugar molecule is a little bit bigger. Okay, it's got kind of a pentagon in terms of a shape here. And we've got the bases. Now here the bases are just a red block, but here I've gone into a bit more detail. We've got 4 letters. We've got C, G, T, and A. And those are the 4 types of bases. Now, how many letters are there in the English alphabet? We've got 26 letters that make up all of our words, which make up all of our language. The language of DNA only has 4 letters, or at least at this level it only has 4 letters. When you continue on with genetics later on, you might look at another one as well. So those 4 letters make the genetic code, which talks about all of our differences, all of our characteristics, whether we're going to be humans, animals, or plants, okay? All of that, all of those variations, okay? Attached, unattached earlobes, shape of your nose, shape of your hair, so many different things. It's all due to differences in these letters, okay? So we've got those letters and we can see that they're connected up in a certain way. Between C and G, they're always connected. And you've got 3 kind of bonds that connect them. T and A are always connected too, and you've got 2 bonds that connect those. So we'll go a little bit further into these nitrogenous bases. So they make up the genetic code of living things, which I've just talked about. The 4 bases, as we've discussed earlier, adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. Okay. The single letter code is probably a bit more important, but hopefully you'll get to learn these names as we go on. They pair up in a specific way due to their chemical structure, and the fact that they pair up in a specific way is known as complementary base pairing. The bases complement each other, okay? Which kind of, you might think of it as they work well together, they fit together, okay? Alright, so let's look up the complementary base pairing. Adenine always pairs with thymine, okay? And here's the chemical composition. Now, unless you're a big chemistry buff, you might look at that and go, gee, that doesn't make sense to me at all. There's two connections there. I want to explain an easy way to remember that adenine and thymine always pair up. This man here, the great man. So this is Tim Allen, just in case you don't know. So Tim Allen, think of T and A, thymine and adenine. So remember Tim Allen, and you've got half of your complementary base pairing down pat. Let's look at the next pair, guanine and cytosine. I can't imagine that you're going to be memorizing the chemical composition and the fact that there's 3 hydrogen bonds that connect them together. Why not think about George Clooney instead? Okay, GC. George Clooney, guanine, cytosine. What better way to remember complementary base pairing? So here's a representation of all of the aspects that we've talked about here. We've got a section of our DNA molecule. We've got our sugar phosphate backbone. So you've got repeating sugar and phosphate units, and all of those are making up the backbone, which twists around. And remember, the shape of a molecule, of the DNA molecule, is referred to as a double helix. We've got our 4 nitrogenous bases in the middle. We've got guanine pairing up with cytosine, George Clooney, and we've got thymine pairing up with adenine, Tim Allen. Okay, so you've got your complementary base pairing there. See if you can fill out the rest of the labels for this molecule. Try and pause the video and see if you're happy to fill in the blanks. Hopefully you had a go yourself. Okay, so we're referring to a phosphate group here. We're referring to a double helix for the shape of the molecule. Adenine, because adenine connects with thymine, Tim Allen, and the purple one is guanine because it connects with the yellow, which is cytosine. One more thing to help you remember the sugar phosphate backbone and how it connects to the bases. Okay, now a sugar molecule connects to the base. The phosphate molecule does not have a base attached. Okay, now sugar is sweet. Sugar is delicious. We all love sugar. So that's a good way to remember that the bases attach to the sugar molecule. Phosphate, so the light blue stuff on this diagram, phosphate is found in fertilizers. Okay, so that's probably not as nice, okay, than sugar. So try and remember that phosphate's in fertilizer, so the bases don't want to connect with that. Okay, sugar is sweet, the bases connect to sugar. I'm going to leave you guys with a simplified diagram of DNA. So here we've got the sugar phosphate backbone, represented by just a straight line, sugar in white, phosphate in black, and we've got our bases. Okay, so the sequence of DNA from this DNA strand is A, C, G, T, A, T, G. And we have the complementary DNA strand on the bottom. So it follows the complementary base pairing rules, T with A, G with C, in order to create a complementary strand on the bottom. This is really important because it has to do with how DNA copies itself and how DNA replicates, which is copy itself. So I don't know why I repeated that in a different way. But anyway, what I would like you to do is use your understanding of complementary base pairing to complete the other side of this strand. So we've got half of a DNA molecule, or half of a strand of DNA, G, A, C, C, T, G, T. What's the complementary strand? Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in class.